Hi, Scott here again, and today I wanted to show you when I built the cabinets for my kitchen. I did these up here and down here in the bottom and an island over here, but I decided that we needed a little more storage, so we built this pantry over in the corner. And there's a few things that I had to figure out when I was building it. For example, I couldn't build it on the floor and stand it up because it wouldn't fit up through past the ceiling. So I had to build it standing up. So these side pieces are all one piece, floor to ceiling. And trying to build it standing up was a real puzzle for me, trying to figure out how to do it. So what I did is I got 4 2x4s, put them up on edge, and built a square all around where I wanted the base to be. And I didn't build it in the corner, I built it out here and then pushed it over. And one of the problems was that the ceiling up here was lower, well, it was higher than that over there. I don't know how that happened, but it was higher. So when I built it up here, I did it within like, maybe a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch from the ceiling. And so when I pushed it over, it was too high. So I actually had to get an oscillating tool and trim down the boards along the top. And then to make it fit better, I put these little strips in and just fit them around the crown molding. So I've got a strip back here to hide the gap. There's a gap over here that I just noticed the other day that I didn't fill, and that's what it would have looked like. And you can see I filled it up here on the upper cabinets when I put those together. So I've still got to do another one down there, but I did put a strip all the way along the back to fill in the gap. But anyway, I took two full-size, I cut 2 full-size pieces of melamine. I think it's 2 feet deep, and I think it's 2 feet across as well. And I wanted to give just a few inches here so it wouldn't crowd the light switch here. So I cut those out, and I had built this box of 2x4s down at the bottom, and then I used clamps to hold these sides up. I had to have my wife hold the one side while I held the other one, put clamps to pull them together, and then I used nails to tack it in, and then I countersunk some screws along the bottom to go into the 2x4s. And then with that, well, I had some help holding that side up. I took another piece of melamine, and you can see this is too deep. These are both 3/4 inch melamine. I put this one in at first, and to hold it up, I got a board much like this one, and I put it underneath the board, and I used clamps to hold it there. And I did the same on this other side, used clamps to put a board and hooked it to the outside wall so it would hold up that melamine. And it goes clear to the back. And then I tacked that in with a nail gun, just with some finished nails, and then I countersunk some screws in there. And then afterwards, I didn't like the idea of just one piece holding it up. I wanted the strength of 2. I don't know if that's very common, but I wanted the strength right in the middle because I was having these drawers. You can tell this is a junk drawer. I put 4 drawers down below, and there was going to be a big gap here that would have drawers, and I just wanted a little more stability here in the middle. And then So I put the boards along each side on the inside of those two tall boards, clamp them with the little clamps, and then hook the board in. And then later on, when I hooked this one in, I held it up with clamps front and back, and I screwed it in from the bottom. I countersunk them just a little bit, but I screwed it from the bottom, and I also put glue in between to help hold it up. And then I put screws all along each side to hold those up. And I did the same up here. Let's see, I did the same, another one here. So I've got the 2x4s down below with the square, and then I put a piece of melamine down flat on top of that and screwed those all in with the sides. And then I think I actually had put that one in, clamped this one in, clamped this one in, and clamped that one in. And then I just did them all together. But I could have done just the bottom and this one and done the other two later. I don't think it matters. But I did the same thing. I ran a board along the inside of here, clamped it front and back to support this. So after the boards were there, I just put this board in and nailed it from each side. Same at the top. And let's see. Oh, and before I had even done any of that, I got a Craig jig to put in these holes. Looks like I actually didn't remove some of my marks. Oh well. Magic eraser. If you deal with that, a magic eraser will take those right off. So I started down here and put a 7-inch board down here, all along there. Did the holes up here and in the back, and I did the same thing over here and in the back. But I did those while they were laying down flat on the ground, on the floor here, so I wouldn't have to do them while they were standing up, and that worked out well. And then one of the things that I always wondered about when I was putting this together, I couldn't find any videos that showed how to put in the drawer slides. I didn't know if you put them clear to the end, and on these ones inside here, down in here, I don't know if you can, I'll have to try it down below, see if those are any more visible. Anyway, so the sleeve for the drawer slide is right there, and it comes to within about 1/8 of an inch of being out here. And on here, it comes right out to the face board of the drawer. But with all the drawers, I built all the drawers, and you can see it's just the plywood. It's pre-finished plywood because I wanted the slick surface inside. I didn't want melamine drawers here. I wanted the wood look. So I put all those drawers together, and I tacked them here, and I actually sanded the inside of this board where it was going to meet right here, so that when I glued it with wood glue, it would actually stick. If you try gluing on top of this surface, it'll just pop right off. It won't hold at all. But so the sleeve is within about 1/8 of an inch here, comes clear to the front. But I put the slides on the drawers, and then I put the sleeves in. But I always wondered how do you determine where do you put the drawer slides? And it all depends on how deep you want the drawers. You can see these are, I can't remember if there's 3 different or 4 different sizes. So it all depends on how much of how deep you want the drawer and how much of a gap above. Depends on what kinds of things you're going to put in there. Sometimes my wife likes to put in crock pots and things, so I have some drawers that are deeper, others are shallower. Some have tablecloths, some have cookbooks. But we started out with our old kitchen with 5 drawers, and we now have 18 drawers, which is just terrible to deal with. Yeah. So, so I just figured about what depth I wanted, and then I gave just a little bit. You can see I've got just a little bit of space above that piece of melamine for the first drawer, and then I just put this drawer slide. You can see I put it a little above where the bottom of the drawer would come in here, because I didn't want, let's see, so the bottom of the drawer is in this bottom ½ inch here, and I didn't want these screws to be hitting any nails that I'd use to hook the drawers together. So I raised it up a little bit, which made it so this bottom part was going to be a little lower, so I had to raise up the drawer sleeve, the slider sleeve, the glide sleeve, a little higher on the bottom. I think one of these I actually put too low and I had to redo it. But then I wanted a little bit of gap up here, and it really doesn't matter how far up you have. You can actually have your drawers with whatever gap you want, and then you just build the fronts so that they will all be covering. See, this one has a little bit more than this one up here, and this one has almost none at all clearance, and this one has a little bit more clearance. So it really doesn't matter. And you can see I didn't even paint the inside of this one, because nobody's ever going to see it except for you. Some of these others I guess I didn't paint any of them except for this one. I think I painted that one because I decided to use the other side of the drawer. So anyway, you put your drawers in. You hook your slides to the bottom of the drawer. I raised it up a little bit so it wouldn't hit the bottom part of the drawer. Raised it up, put the sleeves in, measured this distance, from here up to here, added a couple of inches. Maybe this one has 1.5 inches, and then I just put the others in. I'll show you the gap again. The gap's a little different for each one. It makes absolutely no difference. It just matters if you wanted to have a little bit of room for some things to poke up a little bit so they wouldn't hit the bottom of the drawer. And then, how do you figure out the height of these? Well, what you do is you can get one board. Well, and see here too, this bottom here is flush with the bottom. So you can take one board, which is what I did. These were all a piece of plywood, and I had it so it was paintable wood on the outside. Well, I guess, trying to remember how I did this. Yeah, it was paintable on one side and finished on the other side. And then you can see I used an 1/8 of an inch gap. It's slightly different here and there, but when I was putting in I started down here at the bottom, putting this face frame on. Face frame, not face frame, the face of it. So what I did when I was putting that board on, I put a board under the kick plate. Oh, and you want to cut out the kick plate space at first, because you're not going to be able to do it afterwards. And then I held a board up under like this, and I rested that piece of wood on top of it. Oh, let me back up. I was talking about this being one piece of wood. I figured out how far I wanted it from the top of this. See where it's even. I want it to go from there clear up to here, and I've got a gap there. But then this cut right there just is how the thickness of the blade on the saw. So with one piece, I cut those 4 drawer fronts out. And so I just added a little bit to on this one because I wanted to put some deeper stuff in here. And to set this first one in, I had my wife help me. I put this under here, and then I set the board down on, I put the board underneath so it would be under the kick plate, and rested that board on top of it, clamped it to the inside here. So I put a clamp right here and one right here, and then I sunk the screws in. Let's see, there's a screw. I think I did 2, 4, 6 screws along the inside, and I even put some glue down there in between to hold as well. And then when I got to the second drawer, I had an 1/8 inch piece, 1/8 inch thick piece of material, put it there, rested the next drawer on top of it. I had it clamped, and then I put some screws in there, 6 screws or 8 screws, I can't remember. And then I did just worked my way up using that same 1/8 inch piece of material to act as spacers. And then when I got up here, it covered up the second piece, and let's see, yeah, and so I wanted a little bit deeper, bigger gap up here. Some people would want the same. I just did a little bit different. I don't know why. And then I did a little bit bigger gap up here as well. And then when we were first looking at where it met the ceiling, I could see that the cabinet needed to go square against the wall, but I wanted to keep that crown molding as close to the cabinet as possible. And so after thinking that with the doors, if I would have just done it the thickness of the cabinet, it would have been a little more difficult to open and have some space there. So I put a spacer. This is a 1x4 board. Put that in, and it actually has one of these little things over top of it to finish it off. But it has a spacer board here in the front and then one in the middle where I measured where the studs would be. Then I actually put some screws through the sides here in several places, top to bottom, where those boards were. And then I put another 1x4 back about 1 foot, well, 16 inches, and went top to bottom with some pieces there, just to pull it out a little ways to give it a little more space, especially for the drawers, because if I wouldn't have had that spacer here, the drawers would have been within just like 1/8 of an inch, maybe even touching the wall, and I wanted it out a little bit. So I put the spacer in, and then what turned out is I had actually cut off this piece thinking I was going to have to find some spot here to make it so the door would open. But then I realized if I just, I don't know if you can see this or not, I got a little burr on a drill and just gouged out enough space for the corner of that door. And you never even see it from down here, but it allows the door to swing through that. Let me see if you can see that. Yeah, I just put that little piece back up, even though I had cut it out, put a little piece back up, gouged it out, and the door works great. And something else that I learned is that you've got these self-closing doors. This one closes. This one does not. This one, you can see, opens very wide out, and I wanted that in case we had to get big stuff out, like sometimes that. So these are Actually, that's a softened close. I can't remember what they call it. It pushes in kind of slowly. But on these, they're I think it's 120 degrees that they open. These only open, I think it's 90 degrees. But I didn't want them to hit the wall, so they're protected from hitting the wall. And I put a little bumper up on here that nobody ever sees either. So that protects the wall when it opens. This one will actually hit the wall. I haven't put a bumper there. I'll have to think about that one. So I got the 90-degree soft closed doors, and I got the 120 degrees, so it'll open wider on these outside ones. And there's lots of adjustments in here. There's a screw in here and a screw down in there that will help the pitch and the angle of the door. See, that one doesn't self-close, but it helps the angle, so when it's off a little bit, and these are off a little bit, you can see the gap. Well, it's actually not straight here, but no one ever notices that. I'll have to see what I can do about that. But the gap here is a little bit bigger than the gap up there. And I haven't quite found the right combination of tweaking these screws here and these screws here to make them align and adjust just right. Let's see what else I can tell you. I did put a spacer up on top. I don't know if you can see that. It's about the same size. Well, it's actually bigger than the melamine on that end, much smaller on this end, just because the sealing was different. And I actually free-handed that piece. I figured out, I measured the distance there, and I measured the distance there, and then the length, and then I put that on a board, and I put the board at an angle and just free-handed it on the table saw. You have to be really careful doing that so it doesn't flip back at you, but that's how I did it. Let's see what else. I think that's all, but after I got it all put together, I actually had the doors on after I'd moved it over here. But I put the frame all together, pushed it over, and then drilled the holes in. Not drilled the holes, I screwed it to the wall. And this is actually, we used to have some just stacked up, a pantry kind of stacked up. But this works much better, looks much better. Then we just put some baseboard down below. And there was a debate over whether to cut them out or whether not to. I cut them out. But that's pretty much how it is with doing a freestanding pantry. With all of the cupboard doors, door handles, and the drawer handles, I used a jig that I made. You can see all the doors, all the handles they actually came out exactly even, and that's just because I used a jig. And I'll show you in another video how to make that jig so that your spacing from here to here comes out exact, and from here to here comes out exact, whether you're on a left-hand or right-hand door. So hope that helps. It's interesting doing a one-piece pantry that you have to build standing up. It's a good challenge, and hope that helps. And if you have any questions, leave them down below, and I'll get back with you. And thanks for subscribing. Give us a thumbs up, and yes, subscribe. It'll help the channel. Thank you.